look at you. It's so good to see you again. We haven't seen you for a
Yeah,
couple of months. How are you doing?
really, really good. I'm not able to take classes right now, but I just re-enrolled as a post-bac student. I've decided to look at getting my doctorate in developmental psychology.
Love it.
Uh, it was a subconscious effort for me. Is I kept taking classes that were related to developmental psychology, and I've always had a thing. I love it. Like you like to say the word kiddos. I've always had a thing for kiddos. Yeah.
Okay. I thought for a minute, I was afraid because some people don't like that term. And I keep saying, I don't like, people get all offended sometimes if you say kids or if you say children. And especially, I've been on a tear lately about saying, what do we call adults when they are our children? Because if you call them children, then people go, well, they're not children, but they're, my son is my child, but he's not a
Well,
child anymore. I need a new word.
well, biologically, they are children. I mean, not children, excuse me, but biologically, they are adults, Shannon.
Yes, but he's
But
but he's my child. I need a
just it's the neurodevelopment that's the problem.
well, I just need a new word in the vocabulary for what do you call the people who were that you gave birth to, that you raised when they're adults. Um,
Well,
right?
yeah.
I don't know what that word is. Anyway, I digress. Let's
You don't have to figure that out. I mean, I don't think that's something you're in control of.
You're
Um,
right. But I
well,
want a different word. If somebody knows a word, write and tell me. But tell us what's been going on in your show. I love this idea that you did an episode about special education versus mainstream classes, and I'm curious as to what your take on that was.
well, what it all started, I got the idea when I was riding in a ride share. And did you listen to the episode?
No, I have not yet watched it. I'm going to admit that freely. I want to, but I have not yet listened to it. I'm bad.
Well, I just got inspired because the rideshare driver turned out to be a special education teacher, and I've got to be very careful about what I say. But basically, he said that basically his argument is that high functioning autistics don't belong in mainstream level classes,
Ooh.
and he called them. It's like I was trying to advocate for people on the spectrum. I said that I said that we don't like to use the functioning label, and I tried to explain, and then the guy cut me off and said, "Yes, I understand that, but we need the functioning or the high functioning system to get kids in the right special education classes." And then he said, "Well, we have a lot of level one autistics, but they don't belong in special education classes." Actually, he said, excuse me, he said they don't belong in mainstream level classes. And I didn't tell him that I was in special education. I told them when I was getting out the door, I said, because I was getting ready to catch a train, I said, well, just so you know, I took mainstream level college courses. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I 100% disagree with you. And I walked out the door. I was mad.
Of course.
So
I mean, I'm mad too. And I'm mad for you that he was talking to you in that way. And I got to say, when you said, well, your rideshare driver was a special education teacher, and my first thing was like, oh, why is he driving a rideshare? Why is he not in a classroom? We have a deficit. We don't have enough. But now I'm thrilled that he's driving a car instead of being in a classroom because he doesn't belong in a classroom.
thank you. Well, no, he said he works with the more severe to profound level or level what they call level 3 autistics. He does classes online. So,
With,
but no,
I mean,
yeah,
there's so much there.
I don't really want to glorify him
Yes,
necessarily
yes,
because
no.
we have special education teachers that tune into here. And as I said in my show, if you are a special education teacher, we can agree to disagree because
Absolutely.
because there are lots of trainings out there for mainstream level teachers that are teaching people about inclusion and acceptance. And I don't think we should fully do away with special education. I think special education should be there to provide proper accommodations,
Yes,
like note takers, paraprofessionals. That isn't
yes,
that what the IP is for?
exactly. Again, I just want to say I'm glad he's driving a car and not in a classroom. But I don't understand, I've never understood when people come from a place of exclusion. where people go, well, we're going to have this group of people over here and we're going to have that people over there, and you better fit into one of those groups definitively. Don't, there's nothing in the Santa bag for you. That makes, because that's not a problem with the individuals. That's a problem with the person who's segmenting.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I think special education is important. It's just the attitude that some of these people bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, hopefully they're all going to be rideshare drivers. Because I love your point. There are amazing special education teachers out there. There are amazing special education programs that actually do the job of supporting an individual so that they can gain access to what is being taught. That, for me, is the purpose of special education. We always show that cartoon where it shows the three kids trying to look at and watch the baseball game, but one of them is tall and can see over the fence. One of them is just tall enough so that they can see a little bit of it, and one of them is too short that he can't see what's happening at all. And then
the equity one.
Right, and
Yeah,
then
that's the cartoon.
What's that?
That's the symbol for equity.
Yeah.
Love that cartoon.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
yeah, because that, for me, that when I saw that, I was like, well, that's really what we need everything to be, is that for the kid who doesn't need a box to stand on to see, he doesn't get one. But for the kiddo who needs a box to see everything, of course, and for the kiddo who needs a taller box, let's give them the taller box. Everybody deserves to see what's happening in the field. And why do we have to get into a big tussle about that? It just, to me, that's just humane and life. And if you're an educator, you should be in that category. But what, I don't want to spend too much more time on him because he sounds like a putz. But what was his rationale for why people who are, as he said, high functioning, why they shouldn't be mainstreamed?
I didn't really get a chance to speak with him. To be honest with you, I could not wait to get out of that car.
Yeah, yeah, I don't blame you at all.
Yeah,
well,
that was, yeah, it was an awkward situation. Not only that, I ended up sharing the ride with somebody else who rides the bus with me. And she, for whatever reason, I rubbed this woman the wrong way. And, she doesn't like me for whatever reason. And, I've tried talking to her, but she'll talk to everyone else, but she'll just, for whatever reason, stick her nose up at me and just kind of.
Well, we don't like her either. If she doesn't like you, we don't like her. And I'm just going to say that because what's not to like about you? You're fabulous.
Yeah.
So, I don't like her now. I don't know her, but I've decided I don't like her.
I don't really want to talk about that stuff.
What would you like to talk about, though? Because you asked to come on because you said you've got new stuff to talk about. What would you like to talk about?
So recently, I was on another podcast series called The Unstoppable Mindset with Michael Hinkson. And Michael is not on the spectrum. Michael is a self-advocate who's legally and totally blind. And he is an amazing person. I should mention that this is somebody that survived 9/11 terrorist attacks. He was in Tower 1. And he has a book out called Thunderdog. Well, recently he started a podcast series and he talks to different people. And I had the opportunity to be on his show. I heard about it through a colleague of mine, who was a part of our ED&I team, which was equity and diversity and inclusion. And so anyway, I took the opportunity, being that I'm on the podcast tour. And so he wanted to know a little bit more about autism. And his name is Michael Hinkson. And he has a book out called Thunderdog. So please be sure to check that out. I mean, I don't have the name of the website, fortunately, but I can tell you guys to go to the Unstoppable Mindset and look up my episode. I mean, the interview I did with him. And you can find him on Apple Podcasts.
Wonderful. And
Yes.
I love that. And I love that you have been on this podcast tour because you have a message that you want to get out too, and which you're covering in your podcast, but you're going on other podcasts to talk about it. So talk a little bit about Hello World and why people should be tuning in.
So the objective of the podcast is to raise autism awareness and acceptance together. Sometimes I talk about social justice type issues, like after what happened to George Floyd. I talked about what people did in did back in the 60s during the civil rights movement. But what I do is I raise autism awareness and acceptance together because I believe we cannot have one without the other. And so I don't use the blue puzzle piece, and I don't use the infinity symbol. What I do instead is I've decided to simply go with the purple heart, because you have red and blue, they make purple. Purple's my favorite color, and then I have the little heart there. But what I'd like to do is encourage people to go on TV show. I mean, not going to be involved in their local Autism Speaks chapter as self-advocates, because I think it's really important. I mean, we don't have to agree with everything that Autism Speaks does, but the reason why I think we should be involved with Autism Speaks is because there's a nothing about us without a strategy.
And there are others that are that identify as being self-advocates who there are many organizations that they've decided that they want to boycott, and one of them sometimes, not always, is Autism Speaks. So it's very interesting for you to say quite the opposite: get involved. If it's nothing about us, then be involved in that organization. And I assume you're wanting to make some changes by being on the inside. Is that correct?
Well, I can't make the changes by myself,
Right.
but I think it's really important as self-advocates that we be at the table having conversations with these professionals. And as acceptance and awareness continue to change our laws here in this country and perhaps around the world, we're going to have people on the spectrum like myself. Like one day, I'm going to have a doctorate in psychology, developmental, and I'm going to be a part of those conversations.
As you should be.
Yeah. And as there's a children's book out there. Temple did it, I can too. And so I'm quoting that. If Temple Grandin did it, I can too. But wonderful. So anyway, the reason why I think it's important is because we have people living on the spectrum who are just as intelligent, and people on the spectrum that have some strategies and have perhaps studied things like ABA. And there are people on the spectrum who are interested in ABA. There are people on the spectrum who are very involved with Autism Speaks and the Autism Society of America. And they probably share the same perspective that I do. And then I work at a university. I work at the Center for Leadership and Disability, and we've done some collaborative projects with Autism Speaks. And when you're a professional, you're expected to learn how do I reframe that? When you're on the spectrum, when you work at an organization like the Center for Leadership and Disability, you're expected to connect with every organization and hear what they have to say, even if you don't always agree with everything that they do.
Well, amen to all of that. And that's some of what you're doing on your podcast. You brought up Dr. Grandin, and you've interviewed her on your podcast.
Mm-hmm. And I've met her several times.
Yes. I'm sure that she's thrilled with the work that you're doing, because you're doing all the things that, she always talks about, that, don't just sit and be, in your own little thing, get out there and do your thing. So I'm sure she's thrilled with what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I've got to tell you, I'm not addicted to video games, but I got addicted to binge watching during the pandemic. I was addicted to television until I was about 21. My aunt pulled me away from that. And then I got into that again when the pandemic hit. And I got into a rut of wanting to watch only one show. And it was either Young Sheldon or The Big Bang Theory. Well, the last couple of months, I've been kind of waking up and saying, hey, what am I doing? I know better than this. I was involved in the community before. So I canceled my subscriptions on HBO Max and what's that, Peacock?
Yeah.
I decided to switch over to, Pluto TV, because that's free.
Yeah.
But because, I'm just addicted to TV. And it's not like I haven't seen The Big Bang Theory before. I've seen those episodes a million zillion times.
Yeah.
And you can watch them for free on your antenna. But I'm actually trying to wean myself away from that now and I'm going to LinkedIn Learning, and I'm trying to stretch myself. I want to be a researcher. I'm trying to teach myself how to use statistics in Excel, and then also someone also suggested, works at the university, and he's a research professor. He suggested that I consider learning how to use SPSS, because that's what they use in psychology.
I don't know what that is. What is SPSS?
So SPSS, it's a statistical software that calculates the statistical formula for you. For example, if you're looking for the mean, like the mean or the average, the mode, and the median statistical numbers, then
okay, all of that's over my head. Anything more than addition is like stretching it for me, but that's okay. I accept that's who I am. I don't have a head for numbers, but I love that, you know, other people do, which is just part of the human experience. Some people are good at some things and others, you know, are not. But I love that you have a head for that, and that you're a brighter mind who can do that kind of work because it's important. But I just want to say that I applaud your courage. I applaud the mission that you are on. There's always time for you here on this show. And I extend the same invitation that I extended to Leah. We'd love to have you do a video for Stories from the Spectrum.
Me too.
Okay, let's do it. I will.
How do we do that?
Well, it's fairly easy. I'm going to send an email to invite you to do that. I will tell you that there is a little bit of pay for it, which is great.
Cool.
And so I'll give you sort of the parameters. The parameters are easy. And I'm going to say this to the audience because we've been asking people for 6 months now, and we would put out more episodes of Stories from the Spectrum, but we don't have the content. And that's simply because people haven't been sending to it. So what Stories from the Spectrum is a new podcast, and everything that's in it, it's all directly from people who identify as being neurodiverse. So myself and Dr. Graham Pichet are just the executive producers from it. So that's, you know, we're just making it so that there is a platform on which people like, you know, you and like Leo Bird can have a place to say what they want to say. The parameters.
Yeah, and Temple.
Well, and Temple's pretty busy. I don't think that she's got time, but she's always welcome. But if you guys who are watching, who have, you yourself are on the spectrum and you're like, I have a story to tell. So what it is that you're asked to create a video that's between 3 and 7 minutes long, and you create that video. If you need help and support, like maybe you need help with editing or whatever, then you talk to us about that, and we try to identify. I have 2 filmmakers now who can help to edit that are themselves neurodiverse. And it's based on how much time they have, right? But there is a grant so that there's a little bit of money that you get paid. Basically what it is, you retain the ownership of the video, because we never want to claim ownership of the video, but we will be giving you a small honorarium, which allows us to use the video exclusively on our site for 6 months. So you can link to it and show it to people, but it lives on our site for 6 months. And after 6 months, it continues to live on our site, but you can post it other places as well, because we don't want to tie up your work.
Good. I could post it on the website.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I want to talk about is what I'm doing is I want to have you on the show, but I'm going to do a fundraiser through GoFundMe, so I can upgrade the show, and I can pay for a subscription that automatically promotes my show through commercials.
Very good.
And what I want to do is I'd like to have a live show and have past guests on the show. Just, you know, call in. Like, I'd love to have you and Temple. I'd like to have some of my other guests on, like Haley Moss, to come forward. Maybe not donate, but we just sit and talk. I mean, not like a 24-hour telethon, because that's crazy.
It's funny that you should say that, because that's exactly what we're talking about doing here, is a 24-hour telethon, because I am a little crazy.
Now, I'd be happy to be on your telethon.
Well, listen, if I end up doing it, we'll do it in January. And if I end up doing it, we would love for you to come and be on it, because we're talking about just having me stay on the air for 24 or more hours, however long I can do it, and having guests like yourself on and just doing a marathon. It's like something I've always wanted to do.
Now, I see that you're back in your studio. I mean, the last couple times we've spoken, you were speaking in your office at home.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely. We are back
I'm
in this.
glad to see you're back, and I was looking at your bobblehead. Is that you or is
It's
that
me.
Ellen?
No,
Oh, who made that?
it looks like Ellen though, doesn't it? Because she's all skinny like Ellen. But
Who
no,
made that?
it's supposed to be me. Even the earrings are very similar today.
That's really funny. I
It's
like that.
hilarious. Previous people who worked on the show had that made for me, but I'd like
Cool.
to be skinny like her, but I am not. She's even
Yeah,
wearing a shirt that says Autism-Live, and she's wearing sandals. I would never
I've,
wear sandals.
I've got to get rid of some belly fat myself, but
Well,
yeah.
I have a lot to get rid of, but I'm working on it. I'm better. In the pandemic, I lost 60 pounds. I'm trying really hard not to find it.
I gained fun. Well, in the pandemic, I got my bachelor's degree,
That's
and now
pretty
I'm
impressive.
postgrad.
That's
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
thank
We'll
you
take
much.
that.
I mean, yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I thought about that recently. Like, I try to tell people that I went to college, and that's all I ever get is people from that's amazing. I'd like to hear them ask what I want, what my future goal is. I
Well,
want to
I'm
hear
asking
them.
right now, what is the future goal?
Oh, my future goal is I want to go to school and yeah, I want to go to school and do something with developmental psychology and autism research. And for whatever reason, I'm one of the few people on the spectrum that's interested in ABA, but I'm also interested in cognitive psychology as well. So I think
Love
you
it.
could combine developmental and cognitive psychology. There's a part of me. I mean, I'm not diehard. I mean, I'm interested in other types of science. Like you were talking about science earlier. I'm interested in geological sciences,
Wow.
uh, and I'm interested in. Uh, I like like seismology and volcanism. I mean, those are kind of my hobbies. I also like astronomy, but I think I like geological sciences better than astronomy. Like earthquakes and volcanoes have always been fascinating to me. And then geological, like geothermal pools, like
Wow.
a Yellowstone. Yeah, I just do that as a hobby. So
Those are amazing hobbies. I am not interested in earthquakes in my hobby. I'm afraid of earthquakes because I live in Los Angeles.
I
Uh,
understand.
I'm like never wanting to know about earthquakes because when we know about earthquakes is when we've had one. And they're always telling us that might have been a pre-shock to the big one, and they terrify us, torture
I
us for
keep
days.
hearing about that big one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one. Now that scares me.
yeah.
Now the one I'm not interested in. I am not interested in that caldera going off at Yellowstone.
Oh, were they saying that might happen?
The super volcano. I mean, they keep saying that super volcano. They don't say when, but they keep saying it could go off at any day.
Oh, that's
Out of
great.
all the volcanoes, I mean, I'm more interested in Mount St. Helens. I'm more interested in Mauna Kilauea because number one, I've been to Hawaii and I've always wanted to see what lava looks like. Don't
Yeah.
get too close, but I've always wanted to see lava jumping around like a fountain out of
Wow.
crater.
All right. We have some interests that are the same, but a lot that are different. And that's good. That's how the world works.
Mhm.
Well, we're out of time. We've actually gone over, but you're so delightful. I want to stay, but we need to go.
I gotta get to work
But
anyway.
let's definitely, you and I have a conversation about having you do some stuff for us for stories from the spectrum.
Yeah.
And let's continue the conversation. And I am happy to come on your show whenever you have time. I always want to poo-poo it because I'm like, I don't really look. The truth for me at this point in the game is that if I have the opportunity to listen to a parent talk or someone who is authentically having an experience on the spectrum, I'm always going to choose the person on the spectrum. And
Yeah.
I feel that other people feel that too. But if you feel like there's any need for me to come on, I'm happy to come on. Always, always.
I
Um,
would love to have you on.
well,
I mean, I'm
always
not
here.
busy now. I mean, I just need to figure out a time when we can meet.
Exactly.
I'm also trying to get Michael Hinkson on the show because he's
Yeah,
fabulous.
he
I mean, as
sounds.
I
I
said,
wrote down his book. I
yeah,
want
as
to.
I said, he's a 9/11 survivor, and I mean, if I were in that situation and I was in one of those towers, I would have found a way to run down those stairs and get out of there. For
Yeah.
me, it would have been fight or flight.
Oh my gosh, yes. Although there were a lot of people who were on the stairs on the way out. That's the thing that, in our previous studio, our
That's
studio
what
was
he
on the
said.
18th floor, and we would regularly, 18 floors, 18 floors, not 118. And we would regularly have fire drills where we would all have to walk down the stairs. And when everybody in the building is leaving, it would take an hour for 18 floors to get out. And I would always think about 9/11, about if it took that long for 18 floors, how long for 118?
Mike said it took them an hour to get out because there was basically a traffic jam in the stairs.
Yeah, exactly. I can picture it because we would see it at least twice a year. We would have those drills and we would all be going, okay, this is what it was like. Although we were doing it in completely clear air where everything was visible. Imagine doing that with smoke filling the air. It had to have been horrifying.
I was 19 years old. I mean, about to turn 20 when when the incident happened. And, like anybody else,
Yeah.
the first thing I heard of, I mean, is like, and you'll hear this in the interview, but the first thing I heard of is I heard that there was a possible terrorist attack at the Pentagon. And then maybe 15 minutes later, I was at a hospital visiting a friend. I mean, she had a baby out of wedlock at 17. And I went to, let's see here. I went to the waiting room right outside of the ER and I saw the smoke on the TV and someone said that there's a plane that slammed into the World Trade Centers. And the first thing I thought of was accident because I had read about another pilot at one time that had crashed into the Empire State Building. So I thought accident. And then I saw that both of them were on fire. And then I heard the stories and all over the news, they said how many flight attendants were on both those planes. But yeah, I mean, for me, I had a very hard time realizing that there were people inside those towers. I thought that everybody had left. I thought everybody got out of there safely, and they didn't. And then what shook me is a few days later, there were people on the news. They were holding up signs and telling the news, "This is my loved one. Have you seen them? Have they seen this person's missing?"
Yeah.
So, there were people that died in those towers.
Yes.
So,
yes, and bodies that were never recovered. It's unthinkable to imagine even now all these. But we hope and pray that nothing like that ever happens. We are so out of time now, but we just have so enjoyed this being here with you. I appreciate you so much for being here. Where do people go to watch your podcast, to listen?
Oh, just go to helloworldwithmaya.podbean.com. That's helloworldwithmaya.podbean.com.
Wonderful.
You can also listen in on. You can also listen in. You can also listen in with Michael Hinkson's podcast, and his show is called. His show is called The Unstoppable Mindset. He's amazing. I mean, there was also a recording of his experiences living through 9/11. And when I listened to his experiences of the towers collapsing, I wanted to, and everything else, I just wanted to cry. So be sure to check him out. He is fabulous, and just the work he's done. I need to pick up Thunderdog, but I also really need to start talking to the people at Future Horizons because I want to write a book about living 40 years as a woman on the spectrum. Because I'm 41 now.
Amazing. No one would ever know that, first of all, but be proud of that. But absolutely reach out to them and drop my name. Tell them that you've been on my show and that I'm a big fan of yours. Okay?
Yeah, I always do. Whenever I talk, I give you a shout out every time I do a podcast. I'm on a podcast tour, and Shannon's going to be back on my show. So.
Well, that's what. But I mean, when you talk to Future Horizons, because that's who my book is with.
Oh, sure. Yes, I will contact them right now. And in fact, I need to get back into blogging about their events again. The thing is, every time I want to check, Temple's doing everything virtual these days.
Well,
I want to see her in person.
She's back and doing some things in person now. Slowly. So, yeah.
I miss seeing Temple, but
Me too.
I can call her anytime I want. So.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah, she's so nice.
Oh, she's the best. I don't know about you, but I was thinking about her last night and this morning because she was watching that launch last night.
What? Yeah. Oh yeah. I love doing I agree. One of the things we have in common. I mean, I'm not dying the heart obsessed with NASA, but I like doing the countdown too.
Yeah, I was busy working on the toy guide, so I missed it. But I watched this morning, and I was like, oh, I know Temple loved that. I don't know. If at one point she was trying to go to a launch, and they had canceled it and pushed it back. I hope that at some point she's gotten to see an actual launch. That's on my bucket list.
Is this the launch that was supposed to go to the moon?
I don't know. I have to admit that I'm a little out of the loop, but I don't know whether today's is the one that it was actually going to the moon or it's the precursor to going to the moon again. I kind of missed that in the report this morning.
Now, I watched the launch in June 2020. Yeah, when they launched the Dragon, I watched them scrub the launch.
Yeah.
And then that following Saturday, I was sitting out by the pool because yes, they opened the pool in the pandemic in my complex.
Oh, good.
And so that was my highlight during the pandemic, was watching. That was one of my favorites. It's like you can still have a life, even when there are things that are down.
But I want to go to the launch, not just watch it on TV. I want to be physically there.
I've been at two of them. I haven't seen I never saw them launch the shuttles, but I saw them launch a couple of Saturn V's.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. That just sent goosebumps all over me.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. They launched them at Kennedy Space Center. I mean, KSC is awesome. I've been there too.
I've been there, but I want to see a launch. But anyway, we got to go.
Yeah.
I so enjoy you. I'm so glad you're here. We'll be in touch. I'm not as good at that, but here.
Live long and prosper. You got it.
Absolutely.
You got it.
It takes me a while. I got to think it through. It doesn't
Okay,
just do it. But anyway,
I will tell them that I've been on I'll tell Future Horizons I've been on your show, but I have connections over there with Teresa.
I love them. They were fabulous. So you'd be in good hands there. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.